All right, we're back here on the Saturday morning show, and we've got a great guest for you this morning. As I mentioned earlier, we've got Mr. Stacey Batey, who is currently a county commissioner here in Dixon County, and he's been in that role for quite a few years, and he's going to run for county mayor, and we're really excited to have him in here this morning. If you haven't tuned into this show lately, we are this year in 2026, we're trying to have on as many candidates that are running for office as we can possibly get on. When I talk to people out in the community and I ask them about the radio show, I say, thank you, appreciate you listening. What can we do better? What do you guys want to hear? And pretty much what I hear the most is that they want to hear from our public servants, I guess you could say. I like to use that word instead of politicians. Our public servants, the folks who help run our county all the way down to our cities, Justin, try to get them on. We want to hear from them, hear what they have to say. And so we made a commitment in 2026, whenever the new year rolls around, we're going to try to get as many candidates as we can for local office. And we've had some success so far. If you guys have been tuning in every Saturday, you know that we had a couple state representative candidates on. And if you guys are listening this morning, Perry Keenan, John Llewellyn, appreciate you guys coming on with us. And the last couple of weeks, we've had county mayor candidates on. And so in the next couple of weeks, we're going to try to get a couple more. I think there are 5 guys running at this point. And we're, like I said, lucky to have Mr. Stacey Batey in with us this morning. Stacey, how you doing this morning?
Doing great. Thanks for having us. Like I said, this weather's been something.
I appreciate you getting out of the house this morning. We're actually doing this live from downtown Dixon.
Yes.
And how was your drive in this morning?
The roads are a lot better. Like I said, it's still cold, and I know some people are still struggling, but I'm ready for some warm weather.
Man, I was ready to get out of the house this morning, and I'm ready for some warm weather too. The schools are out, been out all week, and then Monday, the schools are out again. So
yes.
A lot going on here in the county. A lot of these back roads are still thawing out. So like I said, I appreciate you coming in this morning and talking to me. Obviously you're here. You want to talk to us a little bit about your campaign, and of course you're running for county mayor. But before we get into the political side of it and all the things that you want to do, if somebody's listening who doesn't know who Stacey Batey is, maybe let's start there. Let's talk a little bit about you and your background, and you can go back as far as you want. You can tell us a little bit about your family if you want to, maybe your business, but let's just start there. Stacey Batey, who is Stacey Batey? Let's start there.
Well, Justin, I was born and raised here in Dixon County. I was actually born at the old Dixon General Hospital where the new farmers market is, and so that's where I was born at. My mom and dad are Jackie and Nancy Batey. I have one brother, Trent. I actually graduated from Dixon County in '85, so it's been a little while. After that, I went on to UT Martin, where I wanted to teach and coach, and I actually played baseball down there.
Really?
So, like I said, still some of my best friends are from that ball team. But,
oh, wow.
I married Kelly Batey, and we have 3 daughters. 2 that are actually teachers in our school system. Sloan, she taught over at Van Leer, but now she's a instructional coach at White Bluff Elementary, and then Maddie's at Charlotte Middle, and she's a SPED teacher. They both coach. Sloan coaches the middle school volleyball over there at Charlotte, and Maddie coaches the middle school softball.
And I hate to interrupt you, but hey, they've had some success. You want to mention that real quick?
I was going to say they both have had success and been to state tournaments, and Maddie has actually won 2 state tournaments and just won this past year, and she's actually named TSSAA Coach of the Year.
How about that
this year?
That was really cool. It's somebody from Dixon to get that honor.
And so they're pretty competitive. Then I got my little one, Lacey, which she's a sophomore, so she plays 4 sports over there. So we're constantly at a ball game or a gym or something, but they keep me busy and involved in the school system. But I've also, like I said, I've been a county commissioner for 16 years. I was a county commissioner in the 1st district. Back in '98 was my first start.
Oh, wow.
And there for 6 years, and then moved to the 4th district, and I've been a county commissioner there this will be my 10th when this winds up. So I was also the chairman of the commission back 2003, 2004 for a year. And like I said, I serve as chairman pro tem now for the work session, which all that means if Bob can't come to the meetings, you just kind of run the meetings,
Yeah.
So, but love being on the commission. Like I said, I was there when it was 24, and then we voted that down to 12, and just was taught by some great commissioners. You know, Booty Reed, Jewel Loggins, Creepy Stewart. They all, the Dan Eubanks of the world. They all taught me to maybe how to do things. But my business side, my business is actually Kirby Road Sawmill and Timber business, which I own and run with my brother Trent. And he'll be taking over when or if we win this mayor race. And so we've been in business since 95 with that, about a little over 30 years.
Okay. Timber
business. So that's
a long time.
A long time.
Well, so you started back on the county commission way back when. You've seen a lot change over the years, haven't you?
You know, we did. I want to say maybe it was 2000, and it may have been 98, but it seemed like it was 2000 because they did it every 10 years, the growth plan, and that's kind of going through some of that now.
Yeah.
And you know, the growth plan, I think we were at 30,000 back then, and they was telling us we're going to be at 50,000 people here in Dickson County, and I just thought there's no way. And now we're what, 55, maybe close to 60,
I think.
So it's
and growing.
A lot has changed, and you know, it's the school system and just everything. The growth here and everything. It's just, I never thought we would have went from 30,000 to 60,000.
No, it's crazy to think of the population change, and when you sit around and you really think about, you know, and you look, there's permits getting pulled every day. There's more houses going up, especially in our rural areas of the county. So I don't think the growth is over, and you know, obviously we'll dive into this in just a little bit, but it's coming, and it's going to go from 60 to who knows what the final number will be. Have you ever thought about how big we could get?
Right, that's something.
Yeah. Well, again, we got Stacey Batey here with us this morning. Appreciate him stopping in with us and talking to us a little bit this morning. Starting off here, just talking a little bit about his background and his experience. When we come back, I want to talk to you, Stacey, a little bit about your campaign and kind of get into why you decided to run for mayor and kind of what issues you're going to focus on if you're able to get into that position. So, everybody, stay tuned. We're going to take a short commercial break, and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Saturday Morning Show right here on Dickson County Radio. All right, we're back here on Dickson County Radio. Appreciate you guys tuning in with us this morning. We're in the 10 o'clock hour. We've got Stacey Batey here in with us, and it's really cold right now. Last time I checked the temperature, we were about 16, 17 degrees, and we've got clear county roads, or excuse me, state roads. Some of the county roads are still under ice, so if you do decide to get out this morning, please be careful and use caution. And if you don't have to get out, if it's not completely necessary, probably a good idea to stay indoors today just because of the temperature. I believe I saw the high was going to be 21 today, so it's rough out there. But again, we've got Stacey Batey here live in the studio with us, and Stacey, appreciate you getting out and about with us. And you know, we started the conversation this morning by just talking a little bit about you and talking a little bit about your background, where you come from, and you know, hey, if somebody doesn't know Stacey Batey, a little bit about you. And you know, now at this point in the conversation, I would like to talk to you a little bit about why you decided to run for mayor. Obviously, you know, you've been into the county commission for several years, and you know, had a chance to kind of work with the mayor, so I know you know a lot about that role and what it entails. And you know, it's a big decision to run for office. You know, I've been through this myself, and you know, it's a tough decision. You have to sit down with the family. You got to talk about it. You got to say, hey, you know, this is what we're trying to do. Does this work for everybody? And that decision is made. I guess maybe start there. You know, why would you you know, want to run for county mayor? It's a tough job, and everything will be your fault. So
yes.
So why would you want to do this, Stacey?
Well, back around July 4th weekend is when we made the final decision that we were going to do it, and everyone kind of said, hey, aren't you starting a little early and everything? But we knew that there was a chance for this primary that's May 5th that this could happen, and we didn't know for sure at that time, but you know, if it did, it was May instead of August that we were running towards. And
that's new.
Yes, that's new. So, you know, we got out. The fair was probably my first real public thing, and I seen you there at the fair, and
we had a good time.
We did all the festivals and everything. I've been to city hall meetings. I've been to places, and like I said, so that's kind of where it started. But I tell my wife I blame my mom and dad for wanting to run. When I was younger, Justin, and I say younger, 10 to 12 years old, my mom and dad would come to Dixon. The paper would have on the side of their wall the election results every election night. There was no social media in 77 or 78.
That's true.
So, we would come down to there, and everybody would gather around and kind of watch those results. And, there were the Cubby Brazzles of the time, the Judge Fields, the BM Petties, the Jasper McEwens, and I wanted to be, I thought that was the best thing ever. I wanted to be them, and want to be like them, and back then it's county mayor now, but it was Judge Fields, and then it was county executive. So, I've seen those changes, and so that's crazy. But what I learned about was that those guys, I loved what those guys loved, and that was to serve. And I have figured that out. I thought, hey, that's what I really like doing, and I want to serve Dixon County and be your mayor, and be the people's mayor, and make this county the best it can be. I don't know anything else. I'm not from anywhere else.
Right.
I love Dixon County. This is all I know, and this is.
We've been fortunate, over the years to have a lot of great leadership in the county, at the county level, as far as public service. Also teaching, people ask me all the time, why'd you want to be a teacher? And I rattle off names like, Carl Pettis and Henry Hamilton and all these guys that I had growing up that were so influential to me. And I know it kind of sounds like what you're saying here is kind of, when you were growing up, you see this great leadership, and, you look around at some point and it's your turn.
Well, and like that, I ended up going through the Masonic Lodge and the Scottish Rites and Shriners and those organizations they serve, and a lot of those great men were in those, and I just kind of wanted to be like them, and like you said, I just got in it and realized I loved the serving part and being part of the county and being part of the solution or the problem. Like you said, you'll get all the problems.
Well, you got to be involved. That's one of the key things. I think before anybody decides to run, you start getting a little more involved in things. You start, checking more things out, and you start realizing maybe there's something that I can do. I interviewed Kyle Sanders a while back when he was running for city council, and I remember him saying, and this really stuck with me, and I've told him this. He said, I said, why'd you want to run? He said, I think we all have a role in our community. And if your role is, picking up trash, then that's your role. If your role is to go over here and be a teacher, then that's your role. He said, and I just felt like I was equipped to do, this. And so I just think that it's really cool, when people, realize that I want to be part of my community, I want to help, and this is something that I can do. And it sounds kind of like that's kind of where you've come from.
It is, and it's just something I've wanted to do since I was young, So
let's talk about. So you had some time to think about it, because you did. So you're about 10 or 11 years old. You're looking up here at the results, and you're thinking about maybe someday I'll be the mayor. And obviously you don't know at that time what the issues are going to be. But as time goes along, and you've served on the county commission as long as you have, we've got these issues that are coming up. And so what would you focus on if if you were put into this position? And there's a lot of different ways you could go, and we're not asking you for every bit of your campaign this morning. This is just an introductory interview, but early on, what are going to be some of your key points, focus, as far as your campaign goes?
Well, since August or July or whenever I started, I was pushing for the start, for the growth in zoning, because some of our zoning issues I think we can fix. We may have to change some zoning laws and like I said, just work on some of that. And of course, education is probably my biggest thing, because I have girls in it, and like I said, I do worry about our teachers. We're losing some teachers, and it's of course we're losing them to money, to the Williamson County area, which is bigger, but we've got to offer something. I don't know if we can, whether it's money or, just stuff that we can, whether it's insurance packages, something that keeps them, because, even my girls are saying, Sloan was a third grade teacher, and that testing, they just push so much. The state almost pushes, it's like we're trying to get to a level 5, and it just seems like maybe we need to back up and look at some of that stuff and say, hey, maybe we just need to have good teachers that can get to the kids, and it just seems like we're doing maybe some of this stuff from the state down the wrong reason, I think. But now I haven't been there. I just know some of our teachers are getting tired. And
you got a unique perspective, though, because you do have, kids that are in the system. So I'm sure that you talk with them, about this with them. I talk with my mom about school all the time, and I tell her things and she has no idea, because she gets to kind of open the door to the other side of it. You've got a kid that's in school, so as a parent, you're seeing it from that side. So you definitely have a unique perspective as far as that go. And then also you're inside the government. So I guess you could almost say 3 different perspectives when it comes to schools.
It's like I said, I definitely do. And then, of course, the economy with the growth and everything, we got to have good jobs. And of course, I've had some people fuss at me. We've got the jobs, we don't have the people. The help force, so the workforce. So we've got a lot of stuff to work on that we need to work on. And of course, the roads and infrastructures. We always talk about that. We need a bypass around the bypass almost, but it's crazy. It's crazy in Dixon right now. But that's what. The county mayor, that's, a lot of those are city issues and state issues, but the county mayor can at least work with these city mayors and the state and try to get some of this solved.
And that's kind of what the mayor does, right?
Yes, and the mayor doesn't have a lot of, I say, power. The commissioners have all the powers, and I really think that's where my strong suit will be. Is since I've been a commissioner, I think I know how to work with them, to get some stuff done. Work with the school board, for the school stuff, and like I said, all the mayors, every one of them, and have a good relationship with everybody. And
it's a tough job.
Yes, and I had a guy tell me, "Hey, Stacey, we want conversation, not confrontation." So
that's a good saying.
That's where I'm at. I want to have a relationship and talk and not get mad and be mad for 2 weeks. Like I said, we can talk and still try to get this thing moving forward, and so that's kind of where I'm at on those things. But like you said, we just we got to work on all those things.
Yeah, and I think it's important what you bring up too, because a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people think that the county mayor is like the most powerful. Right. I tell people all the time, as somebody who studied like government, because I taught that class, government and the civics, your sheriff has got all the power.
Right. Yes. Yes.
And then your legislative body, your county commission, is the one that makes the laws. The mayor's important.
Right. The mayor can guide and steer them a certain way and say, hey, let's try this, but they have all the
It's power. Not a dictatorship. Though.
Right. No.
You have to work with others.
You have to work with others. And like I said, that's where, my experience being there 16 years, I think I have that. And it's just communication.
Absolutely.
And talking to them and talking to the people and just having some where you can have relationships, talk.
Absolutely. Well, we're talking with Stacey Batey this morning. If you're tuning in just a little bit late here, Stacey's been talking to us a little bit about his campaign. He's currently a county commissioner, been serving in that role for 16 years, and he's running for county mayor. And so we're talking to him a little bit about that this morning. We're going to take another short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the campaign and ways that you can contact Stacey, because, Stacey, whenever I do these interviews, at the end, it almost never fails. Somebody sends me a message to my inbox on Facebook or wherever, and they say, well, why didn't you ask them this specific question that I wanted to know about? And I'm like, man, how am I supposed to anticipate every question you guys are going to want to know? So we'll touch on ways that they can contact you too. But let's take a short break, and we'll come back and we'll wrap up the interview. We appreciate Stacey Batey being with us this morning. You're listening to the Saturday Morning Show right here on Dixon County Radio. All right, we're back here on Dixon County Radio, Saturday morning show, and we have a great guest in with us this morning. Stacey Batey, current county commissioner, running for Dixon County mayor, has stopped by live in the studio with me this morning, and he has braved the cold. I believe we're in this, what is it, about 18 degrees, I think. The last time I looked at it here, it was 15 when I first got to the studio this morning. The high is only going to be 21 degrees, and so I guess we're 1 week out from the start of this crazy ice stuff. And 1 week later, still got people without power. I saw a ton of electric trucks out on the roads this morning, so they're still out restoring power. And but a lot of people have regained it at this point. We're doing a lot better than Nashville, anyway. I can tell you that. They're struggling up there. And looking at some of the numbers this morning on the news, man, my heart. Thoughts and prayers go out to everybody in Nashville. There's been a few deaths across the state. Luckily, so far, last time I talked to the officials, nobody had said anything about anything like that happening in Dixon County. So appreciate everybody reaching out, checking on your neighbors, doing what you can to support each other through this really tough week. It does look like we're getting to the other side of it. So that's always positive. Again, we've got Stacey Batey in with us this morning. Stacey has been kind enough to come in here and talk with me a little bit about his campaign. And so we started off the show this morning talking a little bit about, who he is and, where he comes from and his background, and his business and his family and all that. And I learned a lot of things that I didn't know about you, and I've known you for a while. But appreciate you doing that. And then, of course, in the second segment, we talked a little bit about things that you're going to focus on as if you were lucky enough to become mayor, and also kind of why you would want to do that crazy thing and run for political office. But now at this point in the conversation, Stacey, is there anything that we haven't touched on? I know that we've talked about several different things. We touched on the schools, the growth, and all that. Anything else you could think of?
No, other than I meant to tell you, I was also on the airport board.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people don't even realize we have an airport.
Yeah.
And I didn't until when Mr. Booty Reed died, and I took his place on the airport board. So I represent the county. Mm-hmm. There's city representation. So the county and the city kind of own that together. But we have a real diamond in the rough over there that we don't realize. And I wish we could put more funds to it, but it's just I think it would help. A lot of the businesses here use it and fly in, and I just didn't realize everything went on over there that it does. But I just want to give a shout out to our airport and
Garland Pack. Don't even get me started on I wrote a newspaper article a couple years ago about Garland Pack, and for those of you who don't know who that is, reach out to me. I'll send you a copy of the article. But he was a young man who was basically an aviation genius, and the facility out there is named after him. And
yes.
It is a lot more active than you think too. Some folks think it's just out there, but people use it all the time.
That thing it's amazing. I didn't have any idea. And, and I've been on the commission for 16 years, but people just don't realize that we really need that thing to grow and get bigger.
Well, and I heard, just kind of throw out some rumors here, because I love to, put a good rumor out there. But I'd heard a couple of, a couple months ago, I guess, that there were some SEC coaches that were flying in for a certain young man who lives somewhere in the county. And
I was going to say,
did you hear about that?
That's one thing that they tell me on the board. Hey, you can't really tell who comes and goes, but you wouldn't believe who comes and goes out of that airport. And like you said, there's definitely was some coaches in town, and
some politicians I've heard flew in there from D.C. maybe.
You can't believe the people that fly in and out, and this is something I've learned. Our airport is only 5,000 feet. We need it to be 6,000 feet to bring in bigger jets, and if we had 6,000 feet or more, we could bring in some bigger jets and maybe even get some small flights out of there to go places if you want to run to Panama City or something.
Yeah, well, like Jackson, Tennessee has. I took a Cessna one time. I tried to get Nikki to do it with me. She said absolutely not. But I flew up to St. Louis to watch a baseball game one time out of a Cessna in Jackson.
That's what we want here.
Yeah.
Now, the issue is the feds fund the airports 95.5. So you kind of have to do what the feds want. And we are in between Jackson. They take care of Jackson in case anything ever happens to Memphis.
Okay.
Earthquake, anything. So they take care of Jackson. Then the next one is Nashville. So we're in between. So we're not the stepchild, but we're just, they help us great, but we're not their concern right now. So
yeah.
And you can't believe what it costs to add 1,000 feet of runway. It's
oh gosh.
I want to say it's like $15 million.
Wow.
But if we could ever get to that point, we could have what Jackson has, where you could have those little flights in and out of there and get bigger jets in here.
Well, that's pretty cool.
I've learned a lot of stuff.
Yeah, maybe we can dive into that again some other time. But that is an interesting thing. A lot of folks don't even know we have it, but in reality, it could be something that grows in the future and really is an economic tool for us.
It's something we've got to grow. Mm-hmm. But I want to tell you also a little bit about how to get a hold of me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, like you said, we've started a Facebook website, and my website is stacey4dixoncounty.com. And
is it the number 4 or?
Yes, the number 4, correct. And my Facebook is Stacey Batey for Dickson County Mayor. My email is info@stacey4dixoncounty.com, the number 4. And of course, my cell phone, I don't mind giving it out. It's out everywhere, but 615-476-5924. And Johnny Reed is my treasurer over there. And so that was something, talked to him back in August, and he said he would do that.
He's a good man.
He's a good man. And, we started out, my first thing was focused on our future. So that's with my kids and Dickson County and my blood, I want us to be the best. And so it's that's kind of, if you need anything, call me, text me. I'm not a big Facebooker. I'm not one that likes to get on and argue.
Hey, look, I've noticed though that and I do Facebook.
Right.
I'm kind of known for doing the news on there, and I do enjoy it. But I've noticed that some of you guys that have never really been on there had to realize that hey, this election, I guess I'm going to have to do it. And so I've gotten a kick out of seeing some of you guys that I never thought would be on Facebook are now on there, just kind of hanging out with us.
When I started this, I had some of my friends that were on there, and they called me. And they said, "Did you send me a friend request? Because I think I'm getting scammed."
I thought the same thing. There ain't no way Stacey got a
right. So I had to say, I had to start that. So, but like I said, I appreciate you having us. This has been fun, and we've got a few more months here before this primary, and that is something that everybody's talked about. We're worried about the turnout. We just don't know if people still know that we're having this primary May 5th, and we just got to get that out there.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I did want to talk about that before we head out, a little bit about the timeline, because it is January, and some folks are like, Justin, this election's several months off, but I said, we have to get started early. There's a lot of candidates. Right. 2026 is the big election year. Every cycle comes around. More offices are up this year than will be for the next 4 years. We'll have little elections between now and then, but every 4 years when you vote for governor, your county commission, your county mayor, that's the big election here in Dickson County. And so it is upon us. There are a lot of offices, and for the first time, really, at the county level, we've got partisan elections, which brings you a primary, which means we got to get started earlier. So primary will be, I don't know if you have the dates there in front of you, but I believe it's the first week of May.
It's May 5th.
May 5th. Cinco de Mayo.
My birthday.
Oh.
So I'll either have good news or bad news on my birthday.
What a birthday.
That's right, yeah.
So that'll be fun.
Yes.
Yeah. So we got a little bit of time before then, but and then of course, after the primary, we'll move on to the general election, which will take place in August. And in the past, it's really just been the August election. And so this May election is kind of throwing, a little bit in there. I do want to make sure people know about that. And that's another reason why we want to do this show, not only to give each one of the candidates an opportunity to talk to the public directly, which I'm glad you guys have, done that, but also to let people know that there is an election. Here is the timeline.
Right.
Please get involved. I think it was a couple years ago, I think the 24 elections, I was pretty, involved in that one. And I can tell you that the numbers were super low here in Dickson County. It was very disappointing, just to see the low turnout, I just want to see people vote. I want to see people participate. As somebody who is a teacher who majored in, government and economics and all that, always been real civic minded. And just want to encourage people to vote. My grandpa, he instilled it in me. He's no longer with us, but I mean, he literally made me feel bad, Stacey, if I didn't go vote, like I was somehow betraying every man that came before me. And so it's always been important to me.
That's like I said, my mom and dad, they've took me when I was 10, 12 years old because they were involved, and always go vote. If nothing, you can't really fuss about anything if you don't vote.
That's it.
And I also want to let you know, like I said, I'm running in the Republican primary, so I will be May 5th, the Republican primary, and running as a Republican and very conservative. So we're just excited about the opportunity.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming by, man, and doing this. I appreciate it. I on a personal level, I really thank you for doing this because, I think we started doing this back in 22, and we had a lot of success with getting people on. I think just about everybody that had a contested race came on. And so, really wanted to build this into something that the community could really get behind and know that, hey, if I want to know about elections, there's a place that I can go. And, the only way I can do that is if you guys agree to come in here and talk with me. And so far, nobody's turned me down. And you've even gotten out in the snow and 15-degree weather to come talk to me, man. So I appreciate that from a personal standpoint. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
So let's go ahead and close it out. We will be back next week. We will have another episode with another person who's running for office. I won't say the name yet, just because with the weather and everything, we might have to cancel. But I have talked to, I believe there's 2 more candidates that are running for county mayor. I've talked with both of them, and both have agreed to do it. Just got to nail down a time. And then after that, I've already talked to a couple of the county commissioner candidates, Dr. John and Joey Wink and a couple others. I'm going to leave somebody out. I shouldn't name names, but I did talk to a couple of guys who are running and said, hey, will you be open to do this, after we get done with the county mayor candidates? And they said yes. So who knows? We may be able to keep this thing going for most of the year with the amount of offices, that are up. But I want to try to, make this a thing. I want you guys to remember every Saturday morning, 10 a.m., tune into Dixon County Radio, and you can hear from somebody in our community who is serving our community or who wants to serve our community so that you can become a more informed citizen. And I've had a few people tell me that back in 22, when they listened to the interviews, it inspired them to run in 24. And so that's probably made me more proud than anything, is just getting more people involved and doing something that brings the community together. So we're proud of the show, and we appreciate each and every one that has come on. And we thank you very much for tuning in and listening with us. We want to encourage you to stay tuned to Dixon County Radio the rest of the day. We have great music lined up for you. I don't know what kind of music you listen to, Stacey, but we have changed the theme up on Dixon County Radio, and so we have a cutoff of 1990 right now. And so if a song was released before 1990, we're playing it. And let me tell you, we started doing this on January the 1st, and I thought we would do it for a couple of weeks, and it would be a fad, and it would go away. We'd go back to playing, some modern country music or something. People love it. Man, people love it. They love the old school. It's pretty 80s dominant when I was a kid, and so I think about these old songs, and, I really enjoy them. So hope you'll tune in the rest of the day to the radio, and then, of course, we'll be back next week. Everybody stay safe out there. It's still a little dangerous out. Electric crews are out, but I want everybody in Dixon County to stay safe, and we will talk to you again next week. Have a good week, Dixon County. We'll see you next week.